The foundation of lasting attraction isn't built on endless attention or desperate validation. It thrives on something far deeper. When a man makes a woman his sole priority, he unknowingly violates a fundamental truth about desire. Women don't fall for men who orbit them. They're drawn to men who have their own gravity. It's counterintuitive, but the more you try to prove your devotion by sacrificing your purpose, the less secure she actually feels. She doesn't want to be your everything. She wants to witness your strength, your direction, your unshakable. Focus on something greater than fleeting emotions. This isn't about playing games or emotional detachment. It's about understanding that attraction is rooted in polarity. Masculine energy leads, feminine energy responds. When a man centers his world around a woman, he surrenders that dynamic. She may enjoy the initial thrill of being idolized, but over time she senses the absence of something crucial: your backbone. A woman respects a man who remains grounded in his mission, who doesn't crumble when she tests him, who loves her without needing her. The moment she becomes the sun in your sky, she starts questioning why you have no light of your own. This isn't her being cruel, it's biology. Deep down, she's wired to seek a partner who provides stability, not one who seeks it from her. If your happiness depends on her moods, if your schedule bends to her whims, if your identity fades when she pulls away, she loses attraction. Not because she's selfish, but because you've abandoned the very qualities that made you compelling in the first place. Desire isn't sustained by sacrifice, it's fueled by the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth and won't negotiate it for temporary approval. The irony? The less you need her, the more she wants to stay. The tragic mistake most men make isn't loving too deeply, it's abandoning themselves in the process. When a man finally connects with a woman he truly desires, something dangerous happens. He begins to shift his focus away from his own growth and pours all his energy into keeping her happy. The gym sessions become less frequent. The business grind slows down. The hobbies that once defined him fade into the background. He tells himself he's being romantic, devoted, but what he's really doing is dismantling the very foundation of what attracted her in the first place. This slow surrender doesn't feel like failure, it feels like love. He mistakes obsession for passion, neediness for commitment. He starts structuring his days around her texts, her moods, her schedule. Every decision becomes filtered through the lens of her approval. The man who once had ambitions now spends his mental energy dissecting her tone of voice or counting the minutes between replies. Without realizing it, he's turned himself into an emotional satellite, orbiting her world instead of commanding his own. Women sense this shift on a primal level. What begins as flattering attention gradually feels suffocating. She starts pulling away, not because she's cruel, but because the dynamic has changed. The man she was initially drawn to, driven, independent, intriguing, has disappeared. In his place stands someone who's handed her the reins to his self-worth. The tragedy? He thinks he's proving his love while she's unconsciously losing respect. The painful truth is this: no woman wants to be the architect of a man's purpose. She wants to witness him building something greater than both of them, and choose to be part of it. The difference between being loved and being respected comes down to one critical element: your ability to hold your center when tested. Women don't consciously plan these challenges. It's an instinctive pull to see if you're truly the grounded, purposeful man you present yourself to be. When she picks fights over minor issues, withdraws affection unexpectedly, or makes unreasonable demands, she's not being difficult. She's probing for weakness, searching for confirmation that your confidence isn't just an act. The man who crumbles under this pressure, apologizing excessively, scrambling to please, altering his boundaries, signals that his Strength was conditional all along. True power isn't demonstrated through grand gestures or dramatic displays. It's revealed in quiet consistency, the way you maintain your workout schedule despite her complaints about your time, how you calmly end conversations when she becomes disrespectful, your refusal to cancel important commitments just to soothe her temporary emotions. These subtle actions communicate more than words ever could. They show her that your self-respect isn't negotiable, that your mission doesn't pause for her moods. Paradoxically, this uncheckable stance doesn't push her away, it makes her feel secure. She may protest on the surface, but beneath that, she's profoundly reassured by your inability to be derailed. The moment you sacrifice your standards to keep her happy, you teach her that your boundaries are flexible. Every time you abandon your plans to cater to her insecurity, you reinforce that her emotions dictate your actions. Women don't respect men they can control, they respect men who control themselves. This doesn't mean being cold or unfeeling. It means loving her without needing her, standing firm without being rigid, and demonstrating through action that while she's valued in your life, she never be the compass for your decisions. That's when real trust forms, not when she believes you'll always say yes, but when she knows you're strong enough to say no. The magnetic pull of indifference isn't about neglect. It's about the silent power of a man who refuses to rearrange his reality for temporary validation. Women don't chase predictable devotion. They're drawn to the quiet mystery of a man who remains emotionally unreachable in all the right ways. This paradox lies at the heart of attraction. The less you seem to need her approval, the more intensely she seeks yours. When you respond to her games with calm detachment, when you meet her emotional storms with unshakable patience, you trigger something primal within her, a deep-seated recognition of true masculine energy. This dynamic plays out in subtle ways. Every day, the man who texts back immediately every time trains her to expect and eventually disregard his attention. But the man who sometimes responds hours later because he's immersed in meaningful work, he keeps her guessing, engaged, intrigued. It's not about manipulation. It's about the undeniable evidence that your life doesn't pause for her every whim. Women can sense when a man's emotional balance depends on their responses, and nothing kills attraction faster than that silent desperation. The harder you try to prove your loyalty through constant availability, the more you dilute the very qualities that made you desirable in the first place. True indifference isn't coldness. It's the confidence of a man who knows his worth exists, independently of any woman's opinion. When she throws a tantrum and you don't react, when she withholds affection and you don't chase, when she tests your boundaries and you simply walk away, you demonstrate the ultimate form of security. This isn't about playing games, it's about embodying the unspoken truth that while you cherish her presence, you're complete without it. That's the foundation of real attraction, the kind that doesn't fade when the chase ends but grows stronger. Because she knows she didn't win you, she earned you. The ultimate test of a man's strength isn't how he handles rejection or conflict. It's how he maintains his sovereignty when love tries to soften his edges. Women will unconsciously probe your resolve for as long as you're together, not because they're malicious, but because their biology demands confirmation that they've chosen a man who won't fold under pressure. These tests don't come with warning signs. They emerge in sudden emotional outbursts, unreasonable demands, or manufactured crises designed to see if you'll abandon your principles to keep the peace. The man who passes these trials isn't the one who suppresses his truth. To avoid rocking the boat, he's the one who remains steadfast while the storm rages around him. There's a sacred alchemy that occurs when a woman realizes she can't manipulate your emotional state. Every time you respond to her chaos with calm, every time you refuse to engage in petty arguments, every time you demonstrate through action that her approval isn't required for your happiness, she's forced to either rise to your level or walk away. This isn't about dominance, it's about the quiet power of a man who's so secure in himself that he doesn't need to control her reactions. Ironically, the less you try to manage her emotions, the more she begins to regulate them herself. She may resist at first, escalating her tests to provoke a reaction, but when she sees you won't be moved, something profound shifts. The relationship that emerges from this crucible isn't built on fragile agreements or negotiated affection. It's forged in the unshakable knowledge that you chose each other not out of need, but from mutual recognition of unyielding strength. She stays not because you've trapped her with devotion, but because she's found a man who can't be trapped himself. This is the final lesson. Love survives when respect comes first, and respect is earned by the man who remains untamed even in the heart of commitment.